Captain Minho stared at the massive ships that had appeared around his vessel. The alien ships were huge, each one at least 10 times larger than his exploration ship New Sol. Their dark metal surfaces seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols glowed along their hulls in colors that hurt to look at directly. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Sora. Her voice was steady, but Minho could see her hands shaking slightly as she worked at her station. "Put it through," Minho ordered. He straightened his uniform and tried to look calm. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and he wanted to make a good impression. The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that made several crew members gasp. It was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that shifted between blue and purple. Its eyes were large and completely black with no visible pupils. When it spoke, its voice was translated by their computers into perfect Korean. "Human vessel, you will cease all movement and prepare to be escorted to our border station. Your species has violated the territorial limits of the Galactic Confederation." "This is not a request," Minho took a deep breath. "This is Captain Minho of the Earthship New Sol. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your confederation." The alien's expression didn't change. "Your intentions are irrelevant. You will comply immediately or your ship will be destroyed." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Minho looked around at his crew. They were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. Their ship had basic shields and a few defensive weapons, but nothing that could fight these massive alien vessels. "Helm, set course for their station," Minho said quietly. "We'll go peacefully for now." 3 days later, Ambassador Yuna stood in the United Nations headquarters on Earth, reading the formal message that had arrived from the Alien Confederation. The room was packed with representatives from every nation, all of them listening with growing concern. "To the human species," Yuna read aloud, "you have expanded beyond your designated area of space without permission from the Galactic Confederation. This is forbidden under galactic law. You have 30 standard days to withdraw all human presence from systems beyond your original solar system and submit to galactic authority. If you refuse, your species will be considered a threat to galactic peace and dealt with accordingly." President Hana raised her hand. "What does dealt with accordingly mean?" Yuna's face was pale as she continued reading. "To demonstrate our commitment to this ultimatum, 3 of your colony worlds have been placed under immediate blockade. No ships may enter or leave these systems. The colonies are New Busan, New Shanghai, and New Lagos. These blockades will remain until you comply with our demands." The room erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted questions and demands, but Yuna held up her hand for silence. "There's more," she said. "They've included a message from someone called Elder Vorthak of the High Council. It says, humans reproduce too quickly and consume resources without regard for other species. You are like a disease that spreads from world to world, destroying everything in your path. The Confederation has maintained peace in this galaxy for 50,000 years. We will not allow your species to threaten that peace." Admiral Kang stood up from his seat in the front row. He was a tall, serious man who had spent his entire career preparing Earth's defenses against unknown threats. Now those threats had a face. "How many ships are we talking about?" he asked. "Our long-range scanners show at least 50 large vessels at each colony," Yuna replied. "Each ship appears to be the size of our largest space stations." Dr. Yunji, the head of Earth's Xenobiology Department, had been studying the alien transmissions since they arrived. She stood up and addressed the assembly. "I've been analyzing their communications," she said. "Their technology is clearly more advanced than ours. Their ships use energy sources we don't understand, and their weapons appear to be based on principles we've never seen before." "So we can't fight them," President Hana said. It wasn't a question. "Not directly," Admiral Kang admitted. "Our entire space fleet has maybe 200 ships, and most of those are cargo vessels or small patrol craft. We have nothing that could match even one of their big ships." Dr. Yunji cleared her throat. "There's something else, though. Something interesting about their psychological profiles of us." "What do you mean?" President Hana asked. "They keep referring to us as predictable. They seem to think they understand how we'll react to their threats, but their assessments of human behavior are strange. They expect us to either submit immediately or fight in very specific ways. It's like they've studied other species and assume we'll behave the same way." Admiral Kang frowned. "Are you saying they don't really understand us?" I'm saying they think they do, but their understanding is incomplete. They see us as just another species that will follow the same patterns as all the others they've encountered. The debate went on for hours. Some representatives wanted to negotiate and find a peaceful solution. Others wanted to evacuate the blockaded colonies immediately. A few suggested trying to fight despite the obvious disadvantages. Finally, President Hana called for order. We need to make a decision. Do we submit to their demands or do we find another way? What other way is there? Asked the representative from Brazil. They have us completely outmatched. Dr. Yunji spoke up again. Maybe that's what they expect us to think. Every species they've encountered before probably looked at their ships and gave up immediately. But humans, we don't always do what's expected. Admiral Kang nodded slowly. She has a point. Throughout history, humans have found ways to win when winning seemed impossible. We adapt, we improvise. We find solutions that nobody else would think of. But this isn't a war between human nations, President Hana pointed out. This is against aliens with technology centuries ahead of ours. Yes, said Dr. Yunji. But they're still assuming they know how we'll react. What if we surprise them? The room fell quiet as everyone considered this. Outside the windows, they could see the lights of New York City, a city built by humans who had faced impossible challenges before and found ways to overcome them. President Hana looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. These were people whose ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have wiped out their species. They were the descendants of explorers who had crossed oceans in tiny boats and climbed mountains that touched the sky. We need more time to decide, she said finally. Send a message to the Confederation. Tell them we're considering their terms and need additional time to evacuate our colonies safely. Ask for an extension. How long? Admiral Kang asked. President Hana smiled grimly. As long as they'll give us. Humans work best under pressure, but we work even better when we have time to prepare. As the assembly broke up, Dr. Yunji remained behind, staring at the alien message on her tablet. The Confederation thought they understood humanity, but they were about to learn something that 50,000 years of galactic dominance hadn't taught them. They were about to learn what happened when you challenged a species that had never learned how to quit. 2 weeks had passed since the alien ultimatum, and the Global Council was split down the middle. President Hana led the diplomatic faction, believing that negotiation was humanity's best chance for survival. Admiral Kang commanded the military preparation group, convinced that the aliens would never accept anything less than complete human surrender. Neither of them knew about the secret project happening aboard the research station New Horizon, floating in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Captain Minho's crew had been working around the clock since their encounter with the alien patrol. 3 days ago, they had found something that changed everything. A damaged alien scout ship drifting in space, apparently abandoned after some kind of accident. The hull breach was caused by a collision with space debris, reported Engineer Subin, as she crawled out of the alien vessel's damaged section. Her face was streaked with oil and some kind of blue fluid that leaked from the alien systems. But most of the ship's systems are still working. Scientist Taeyong looked up from his analysis of the alien computer core. His eyes were red from hours of staring at holographic displays filled with symbols that hurt to look at directly. This is incredible, he said, pulling off his headset. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but it's also much more specialized. Each system does one thing perfectly, but it can't adapt or change. Subin nodded enthusiastically. It's like comparing a Swiss watch to a socket wrench. The watch is beautiful and precise, but you can only use it to tell time. The wrench is simpler, but you can use it for dozens of different jobs. What are you saying? Asked Captain Minho. I'm saying their shield generators are amazing, Subin explained, but they only work against specific types of attacks. Our plasma cannons are crude compared to their weapons, but we can modify them to fire different types of energy, change their frequency, or even use them as mining tools if we need to. Taeyong pulled up a holographic display showing the alien ship's power system. Look at this. Their power core produces 3 times more energy than our fusion reactors. But it can only be configured in one way. Our reactors are less powerful, but we can adjust them, combine them, or even overload them if necessary. You mean we can soup them up? Minho asked, using an old Earth expression. Exactly. Subin grinned. And I think I know how to do it. Meanwhile, On the blockaded colony world of New Busan, Lieutenant Wu Jin was discovering something that would have surprised the alien fleet commanders orbiting overhead. "Sir, you need to see this," said Corporal Ina, leading Wu Jin to the colony's main communications center. The center should have been in chaos. New Busan was home to 50,000 colonists, and they had been cut off from Earth for 2 weeks. The alien ships above them were so large they could be seen during the day as dark spots moving across the sky. But instead of panic, Wu Jin found organized activity. Colonists were working in teams, sharing food and supplies. Engineers were modifying mining equipment for unknown purposes. Even the children were helping, carrying messages between work teams and organizing supply inventories. "They're not acting like people under siege," Wu Jin observed. "No, sir," Ina agreed. "They're acting like people preparing for a long project." Wu Jin found Colony Administrator Kyung in the main warehouse, supervising the redistribution of supplies. She looked tired but determined. "Administrator, how are people handling the blockade?" Wu Jin asked. Kyung looked up from her tablet. "Better than expected, Lieutenant. We've implemented emergency protocols, but morale is surprisingly high." "Why?" "Because everyone knows what we're really doing here," Kyung said simply. "We're not just waiting to be rescued. We're preparing." "Preparing for what?" Kyung smiled. "Whatever comes next. That's what humans do, Lieutenant. We prepare for everything." Back on Earth, Dr. Gina was presenting her analysis to a closed session of military commanders. The meeting was being held in a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, and only the highest-ranking officers were present. "Gentlemen, ladies," Dr. Gina began, "we've been thinking about this war wrong." Admiral Kang frowned. "How so?" "We're trying to fight their strengths with our weaknesses. They have bigger ships, better weapons, and more advanced technology. If we try to match them ship for ship and weapon for weapon, we'll lose." "Then what do you suggest?" asked General Bora. Dr. Gina activated a holographic display showing the tactical situation. Red dots represented alien ships, while blue dots showed human positions. "We need to fight our fight, not theirs. Look at this pattern." She highlighted the alien fleet positions. "They're arranged in perfect formations, optimal for their defensive systems and weapons ranges. It's textbook space warfare. So it's predictable. They're fighting the war they expect to fight, using tactics that work against every other species in the galaxy. But what if we don't fight that war?" Admiral Kang leaned forward. "Explain." "Humans excel at asymmetric warfare. We're good at improvisation, adaptation, and what I call organized chaos. We can coordinate multiple actions simultaneously, change plans rapidly, and function effectively in situations that would paralyze other species." Dr. Gina changed the display to show historical human conflicts. "Look at every major human military victory in history. We almost never won by being stronger than our enemies. We won by being unpredictable, by adapting faster than they could respond, and by turning our apparent weaknesses into advantages." "Give me an example," Admiral Kang said. "Naval warfare in the Pacific during World War II. The Japanese had bigger battleships and more experienced pilots, but America won by developing new tactics, building ships faster than Japan could sink them, and adapting to changing conditions more quickly than their enemies could plan for." General Bora nodded slowly. "You're talking about fighting a war of innovation rather than a war of attrition." "Exactly. We can't outbuild them or outgun them, but we might be able to outthink them and outadapt them." Meanwhile, Engineer Subin was making a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. She had been working for 18 hours straight, trying to understand how alien shield technology worked. "I think I've got it," she announced to the tired research team gathered around the captured alien scout ship. "What did you find?" asked Taeyong. "Their shields are incredibly efficient, but they're designed to stop specific types of attacks. Watch this." She activated the alien shield generator and fired a standard human plasma bolt at it. The bolt disappeared harmlessly. "Now watch this," she said, adjusting the plasma cannon's frequency by just 2%. The bolt passed right through the shield and struck the ship's hull. "The shield didn't adapt?" asked Captain Minho. "That's the beautiful part," Subin grinned.
"It can't adapt."
"It's programmed to stop certain frequencies of energy, certain types of projectiles, certain classes of attacks. But if you change any parameter outside its programming, it doesn't know what to do." Taeyong was staring at the data readouts. This means we can modify our weapons to bypass their defenses," Subin finished. And more than that, we can probably modify their technology to work better for us than it works for them. How? Sabin pulled up the shield generator's technical specifications. Look at this design. It's perfect for what it does, but it's completely inflexible. Now look at our shield technology. She displayed a human shield generator schematic next to the alien one. Ours is cruder and less powerful, but see all these adjustment ports? All these variable settings? We designed our shields to be modified in the field, to adapt to new threats, to be combined with other systems. What happens if we combine the two? Captain Minho asked. We get alien-level power with human-level adaptability, Subin said. The aliens built their technology to be perfect. We built ours to be flexible. What if we make something that's both? As the deadline approached, humanity was preparing for war in ways the Galactic Confederation couldn't possibly understand. They weren't just building weapons or gathering ships. They were learning, adapting, and preparing to fight a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens expected humans to behave like every other species they had conquered. Either submit immediately or fight a conventional war they couldn't win. They were about to discover that humans had never been a conventional species. The 30-day deadline came and went without a response from Earth. Elder Vorthak stood in the command center of the Confederation flagship Eternal Harmony, watching the tactical displays with growing impatience. Still no surrender from the humans? He asked his aide, a young officer from the Zephyrian species. No, Elder. They continue to request more time for evacuation procedures. Their latest message asks for another week to safely remove civilians from the contested colonies. Vorthak's forearms moved in a gesture of disgust. Typical primitive behavior. They think delay will somehow change their situation. Commence orbital bombardment of military targets on all 3 colony worlds. Perhaps the sound of their own structures burning will convince them to be reasonable. Yes, Elder. The bombardment began exactly at 800 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Massive energy beams lanced down from the alien ships, targeting military installations, spaceports, and communication centers on New Busan, New Shanghai, and New Lagos. The aliens expected panic, immediate surrender, and desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, something impossible happened. Elder, the communications officer shouted. We're detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. Impossible, Vorthak replied. Our sensors show no human ships larger than cargo vessels in this entire sector. Sir, the signatures are coming from the asteroid belt. Before Vorthak could respond, space around the Confederation fleet erupted in light. Dozens of human ships appeared out of nowhere, dropping stealth fields that shouldn't have existed. But these weren't the crude human vessels the aliens had been tracking for weeks. These ships moved wrong. They were too fast, too agile, and their energy signatures were completely different from anything in the Confederation database. All ships, defensive positions, Vorthak ordered. How did they get stealth technology? Captain Deho smiled grimly as his modified attack ship Soul Vengeance dropped its stealth field just 1,000 kilometers from the alien flagship. His ship was a hybrid creation, human engineering combined with alien technology, rebuilt from the ground up using principles that made alien scientists weep. This is Captain Deho to all human vessels, he broadcast on the tactical frequency. Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to learn from them. Take their ships intact if possible. Copy that, Captain, came the reply from Commander Nayong aboard the Busan Thunder. Boarding teams are ready. The aliens fired first massive energy beams that should have vaporized the smaller human ships. Instead, the beams were absorbed by shields that flickered and adapted in real time, shifting frequency and configuration to counter each attack. Impossible, Vorthak screamed. Their shields are adapting to our weapons. What the Elder didn't understand was that the human shields weren't just adapting, they were learning. Engineer Subin's breakthrough had allowed human ships to combine alien shield technology with human adaptive algorithms. Every shot the aliens fired taught the human shields how to better defend against the next one. Captain Deho's ship moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Instead of maintaining safe distances and firing precisely aimed shots, the human vessels dove straight into the alien formations, dodging between the massive ships and firing at point-blank range. Sir, they're using ramming tactics, reported the Zephyrian tactical officer. 3 human ships just collided with our escort vessels. But these weren't suicide attacks. The human ships were designed to absorb collision damage, using crumple zones and emergency systems that allowed them to survive impacts that would destroy conventional vessels. More importantly, the collisions were calculated to disable alien ships without destroying them. Boarding pods launching, Deho announced as his ship latched onto the hull of a Confederation cruiser. All teams, remember your objectives. We need their technology, their databases, and their officers alive for questioning. The aliens had never faced boarding actions before. In 50,000 years of galactic warfare, no species had been crazy enough to try to capture ships in hand-to-hand combat. Space battles were fought at long range with precise weapons and careful tactics. But humans had learned warfare in trenches and jungles, in close quarters where split-second decisions mattered more than perfect planning. They were used to fighting in chaos, to improvising when plans fell apart, to turning confusion into opportunity. Lieutenant Wu Jin led the first boarding team through the airlock of the alien cruiser. His squad moved through the corridors like they had trained for this their entire lives, which in a way they had. Every human military doctrine emphasized adaptability, speed, and the ability to function in uncertain conditions. The aliens inside the ship were tall, graceful beings who had evolved for careful planning and precise execution. They were completely unprepared for the chaotic, fast-moving battle that erupted in their corridors. "Secure the bridge," Wu Jin shouted, leading his team up a curved ramp toward the ship's command center. "Remember, we need prisoners." The alien crew tried to resist, but their weapons were designed for space combat, not close-quarters fighting. Their tactics were based on maintaining formation and executing predetermined strategies. When humans started improvising, adapting, and changing tactics every few seconds, the alien defenders couldn't keep up. Within an hour, Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the captured alien cruiser, looking down at the Zephyrian captain who had surrendered to avoid further damage to his ship. "I don't understand," the alien officer said, his translator rendering his confusion in perfect Korean. "Your species is primitive. Your technology is inferior. How did you defeat us?" Deho knelt down to look the alien in the eyes. "You assumed we would fight your war, but we don't fight the wars other people want us to fight. We fight our own war with our own rules, but our ships are larger. Our weapons are more powerful." "Yes," Deho agreed, "but you built your ships to fight other ships like yours. You designed your weapons to defeat enemies who think like you do. You trained your crews to fight battles you understand." The alien captain stared at him in confusion. "We didn't try to build better ships than yours," Deho continued. "We built different ships. We didn't try to make more powerful weapons. We made weapons that your shields weren't designed to stop. We didn't train our crews to fight space battles the way you do. We trained them to win." Across the system, similar scenes were playing out as human boarding teams captured alien vessel after alien vessel. The humans weren't trying to destroy the alien fleet. They were trying to steal it. Commander Nayung's team had taken control of an alien supply ship and was already downloading technical specifications for every piece of equipment on board. Engineer teams were studying alien power systems, weapons configurations, and computer networks. "Captain," reported Science Officer Gina from the captured alien ship's computer core, "you need to see this. Their entire tactical database is based on fighting species that behave predictably. Every battle plan, every strategy, every tactical doctrine assumes the enemy will follow logical, rational patterns." "And we don't?" Deho asked. "Sir, according to their models, what we just did was impossible. They calculated a 0.03% chance that a technologically inferior force would attempt a direct assault on a superior fleet. They had no contingency plans for boarding actions because no rational species would try it." Deho laughed. "No rational species. That's where they made their mistake." Back on the Confederation flagship, Elder Vorthak was discovering the price of underestimating humanity. In 6 hours of fighting, his fleet had lost 12 ships captured, 8 more disabled, and dozens of crews taken prisoner. The humans had lost only 4 ships destroyed, and even those had been evacuated before impact. Worse, the humans weren't behaving like any enemy the Confederation had ever faced. They didn't try to hold territory or establish defensive positions. Instead, they struck fast, took what they wanted, and disappeared before the aliens could respond effectively. "Elder," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through." Captain Deho's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Alien crew members could be seen working alongside human technicians, apparently helping to operate their own captured ship. Elder Vorthak, Deho said politely, I wanted to thank you for the educational opportunity. Your technology is really quite impressive. Return our ships immediately, Vorthak demanded. I'm afraid that's not possible, Deho replied. We're still learning from them. But I did want you to know that your crews are being treated well. We're not barbarians after all. You cannot hope to operate our technology. It requires training and understanding you do not possess. Deho smiled. Actually, your crew members have been very helpful in explaining how everything works. It turns out that most sentient beings are pretty cooperative when you treat them with respect, instead of threatening to destroy their entire species. The transmission ended, leaving Elder Vorthak staring at a blank screen. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Confederation had lost a battle. But more than that, they had lost it to a species they had dismissed as primitive and predictable. As the human fleet disappeared back into the asteroid belt with their captured prizes, Vorthak realized that everything the Confederation thought they knew about warfare was about to change. The emergency session of the Galactic High Council convened 3 days after the humiliating defeat at New Busan. Representatives from 7 major species gathered in the ancient chambers on Galactic Prime, their holographic forms flickering with barely contained anger and fear. Elder Vorthak stood before the assembly, his forearms trembling with rage and shame. The humans have made a mockery of our fleet. They captured 12 of our ships and made off with technology that took us centuries to develop. How is this possible? Demanded Counselor Thex of the Rigelian Empire. Her scaled features showed the same disbelief that had been spreading across the galaxy for days. Our reports indicated they were a primitive species with crude technology. Our reports were wrong, Vorthak admitted. They adapted our own technology and made it better. Better how? Asked High Admiral Zek of the Centauri Federation. They combined it with their own systems in ways we never considered. Their shields now adapt in real time to different attacks. Their ships can modify their weapons mid-battle. Their crews can operate captured technology within hours of stealing it. The chamber fell silent. In 50,000 years of galactic civilization, no species had ever demonstrated such rapid technological adaptation. This changes everything, said Elder Mox of the ancient hegemony. If one primitive species can do this to our fleets, what does it mean for galactic security? It means we cannot allow them to spread further, Vorthak declared. I am calling for the formation of the Grand Alliance. All 7 major powers must unite to contain this threat before it grows beyond our ability to control. But even as the aliens planned their escalation, humanity was already 3 steps ahead. Engineer Hyun worked frantically in the captured alien ship's engineering section, surrounded by both human technicians and alien crew members who had volunteered to help. The collaboration had started out of necessity, but had quickly become something unprecedented in galactic history. If we reroute power through the secondary manifolds, suggested Kex, a Zephyrian engineer who had been captured in the first battle, we can increase shield efficiency by another 12%. That's brilliant, Hyun replied, making notes on her tablet. But what if we also add human-style redundancy systems? Your designs are more efficient, but ours are more reliable. Kex's large eyes widened with interest. You mean duplicate all critical systems? Not duplicate, improve. Look at this. Hyun showed him a schematic of human ship design. We don't just have backup systems. We have systems that can be reconfigured for different purposes. Our shield generators can become weapon emitters. Our sensors can function as communication arrays. Our engines can be used as massive batteries. This is completely illogical, Kex said. But his tone was fascinated rather than critical. It makes your ships less efficient, but more adaptable, Hyun pointed out. Efficiency doesn't matter if you can't survive unexpected situations. What was happening on this ship was being repeated throughout the human fleet. Captured alien crew members weren't just prisoners. They were becoming partners in an unprecedented technological fusion. The humans treated them with respect, listened to their ideas, and shared their own innovations freely. Dr. Minji, the fleet's chief psychologist, was documenting this interaction with growing amazement. It's completely unprecedented, she reported to Admiral Kang during a secure transmission. In galactic history, conquered species either submit completely or fight to the death. No one has ever tried to collaborate with their enemies. And it's working, Admiral Kang asked. Better than we could have hoped? The alien crew members are actually eager to help once they realize we're not going to harm them. They're sharing technical information, tactical knowledge, even strategic plans for their own fleets. Why would they do that? Dr. Minji smiled. Because we're offering them something the Confederation never did. Respect for their individual worth. The Confederation treats each species as a uniform group with predictable behaviors. We treat each person as an individual with unique knowledge and capabilities. Meanwhile, the Grand Alliance was assembling the largest fleet in galactic history. 7 species contributed their most advanced warships, their best crews, and their most sophisticated weapons. The combined fleet numbered over 3,000 vessels, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. High Admiral Zek commanded the Alliance from his flagship, Infinite Glory, a massive dreadnought that could destroy planets. Surrounding him were representatives of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, all united in their determination to crush the human threat, once and for all. Our intelligence indicates the humans have approximately 200 ships, reported Commander Vel of the Deer Arcturian Navy. Most are converted cargo vessels with minimal combat capability. What about the ships they captured from us? Asked Vorthak. 12 vessels, all damaged in the fighting. Our analysis suggests they lack the technical knowledge to properly repair them. Admiral Zek nodded confidently. Then we will overwhelm them with sheer numbers. No amount of adaptability can overcome a 15-to-1 advantage in firepower. But the intelligence reports were already out of date. Captain Deho stood in the command center of his new flagship, a hybrid vessel that incorporated the best features of 7 different alien technologies. Around him, human and alien crew members worked side by side, their combined knowledge creating innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Status report, he requested. All systems operating beyond design parameters, reported Chief Engineer Subin. The hybrid power core is producing 40% more energy than original specifications, and our adaptive armor is responding to threats faster than any known defensive system. Fleet status? 237 vessels ready for combat, announced Fleet Coordinator Nayong. That includes the original human ships, captured alien vessels, and the new hybrid designs we've been building. New hybrid designs? Deho asked. Subin grinned. We've been busy, Captain. Using alien manufacturing techniques with human design principles, we can build ships that are both more advanced than anything in their fleet and more adaptable than anything they've ever seen. How many? 35 completed, with more coming online every day. Each one is unique, designed for specific mission parameters but able to adapt to changing circumstances. Dr. Minji looked up from her analysis station. Captain, we're also seeing something unprecedented in the captured alien crew members. What's that? They're starting to think like humans. Extended exposure to our problem-solving methods is changing how they approach challenges. Instead of following predetermined protocols, they're beginning to improvise and adapt. This was the revelation that would terrify the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just adapting alien technology, they were converting alien minds to human ways of thinking. The battle, when it came, was unlike anything in galactic history. The Grand Alliance fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 3,000 ships arranged in precise tactical arrays that had dominated space warfare for millennia. Their plan was simple: overwhelm the humans with superior numbers and firepower, destroy their fleet, and end the threat once and for all. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight the battle they had prepared for. The human fleet didn't form up in defensive positions or attempt to match the alien formations. Instead, they scattered throughout the system using asteroids, moons, and even the system's star as tactical advantages. Impossible, Admiral Zek shouted as his sensors tried to track the human ships. They're using the star's gravitational field to slingshot around the system. No one fights a space battle this way, sir, reported his tactical officer. They're not trying to fight a space battle. They're fighting a 3-dimensional guerrilla war. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, struck at vulnerable targets, and vanished before the aliens could respond. They used captured alien technology in ways its designers never intended, turning mining lasers into weapons and cargo holds into missile launchers. Worse, the human tactics were spreading. Alien crew members who had been exposed to human thinking were beginning to suggest unconventional strategies to their own commanders. Sir, a Zephyrian officer reported to his captain, what if we tried approaching from below their formation instead of straight ahead? That's not standard procedure, the captain replied automatically. But it might work better, the officer insisted, and to his own surprise, he found himself thinking through the tactical possibilities in ways he never had before. The Grand Alliance had brought overwhelming force to the battle, but they discovered that force was useless if you couldn't hit your targets. The humans fought like no species in galactic history, using creativity, adaptability, and pure human stubbornness to turn every disadvantage into an opportunity. As the battle raged, Dr. Minji made a discovery that would change everything. Captain, she announced, we're receiving surrender requests from individual alien ships. What? Not from the fleet command, from individual crews. They're asking to join us rather than continue fighting for the Alliance. Deho stared at the communications display in amazement. How many? 17 ships so far, with more requests coming in every minute. The galaxy was learning what humanity had always known, that people would rather. 6 months after the Grand Alliance's defeat, President Sunho stood in the newly constructed Earth Embassy on Galactic Prime, reading the formal surrender document that had arrived that morning. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same council chambers where the aliens had planned humanity's destruction now hosted negotiations for peace. They're offering complete autonomy for all human colonies, he said to Admiral Kang, who stood beside him looking out at the alien cityscape. They want to recognize humanity as an independent galactic power with full territorial rights. Admiral Kang shook his head. Too little, too late. The damage is already done. What damage? We won. That's exactly the damage, Kang replied grimly. Look at what we've become. Through the embassy windows, they could see the human fleet in orbit around Galactic Prime. These weren't the crude exploration vessels that had first encountered the Confederation 6 months ago. These were hybrid marvels that combined the best technology from 7 different species, improved by human engineering and powered by innovations that shouldn't have been possible. The ships moved in formations that hurt alien minds to watch, fluid, adaptive patterns that changed constantly based on real-time conditions. Each vessel was unique, designed by human-alien teams working together in ways that had never been seen in galactic history. We've evolved, President Sunho said quietly. The war forced us to become something more than we were. Exactly. And that's what terrifies them. Captain Yang's voice came through the embassy's communication system. Mr. President, we're receiving the Confederation's formal response to our latest demands. Put it through. Elder Vorthak's image appeared on the main screen, but he looked nothing like the confident leader who had delivered the ultimatum 6 months ago. His forearms hung limply at his sides and his eyes held the weary acceptance of complete defeat. President Sunho, he began, the Galactic Confederation accepts all of your terms. We will withdraw our fleets from all systems claimed by humanity. We will provide full technological specifications for all equipment captured during the conflict. We will recognize Earth's authority over any species that chooses to join your alliance. The word alliance came out like a curse. In 6 months, over 200 alien species had formally requested to join the human sphere of influence. Not because they were conquered, but because they wanted to be part of what humanity was building. Furthermore, Vorthak continued, we formally apologize for our misunderstanding of your species' nature and capabilities. President Sunho nodded gravely. Apology accepted, Elder. But you should understand that this isn't really about territory or technology anymore. What do you mean? You challenged us to become more than we were. We accepted that challenge. Now we are more than we were, and we're still changing. The transmission ended, leaving the embassy in silence. Admiral Jiwon entered the room, fresh from inspecting the orbital shipyards that now surrounded Earth. Her face showed a mixture of pride and concern that had become common among human leaders. The new ship designs are ready for review, she reported. The hybrid technologies have advanced beyond anything we originally captured. Our engineering teams are producing innovations that surpass the original alien designs by orders of magnitude. How is that possible? President Sunho asked. The alien technology was perfect for what it was designed to do, Jiwon explained. But our engineers keep asking what else could this do? And they take systems designed for one purpose and find dozens of new applications. The aliens created specialized perfection, We're creating adaptive superiority. Dr. Minji joined them, carrying a tablet full of psychological profiles and social analysis reports. Sir, we need to discuss the integration programs, she said. The alien species that have joined us are changing faster than we anticipated. Changing how? They're becoming more human, not physically but mentally. Exposure to human problem-solving methods is fundamentally altering how they approach challenges. They're becoming more creative, more adaptable, more willing to question established procedures. Is that a problem? Dr. Minji paused. I'm not sure. On one hand, it's creating unprecedented cooperation and innovation. Species that have been enemies for thousands of years are now working together on projects that benefit everyone. And on the other hand, we're essentially converting the galaxy to human ways of thinking. In a few generations, the distinction between human and alien cultures may disappear entirely. President Sunho walked to the window, looking out at the bustling alien city below. In the streets, he could see humans and aliens working together, sharing ideas, building things that neither species could have imagined alone. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, he said finally. Ambassador Yuna arrived for the afternoon briefing, bringing news from across the galaxy. The Rigelian Empire has formally dissolved, she reported. Their member species are requesting individual treaties with Earth. The Centauri Federation is fragmenting as younger generations embrace human-style innovation over traditional hierarchies. What about the other major powers? The Arcturian Navy is converting their entire fleet to hybrid designs. They're calling it technological evolution, but it's really just copying what we've been doing. The hegemony is trying to maintain their traditional ways, but their younger citizens are immigrating to human space in massive numbers. Admiral Kang looked grim. We've destabilized the entire galactic order. Yes, President Sunho agreed. We have. Was that our intention? No. But it was inevitable once they challenged us to prove ourselves worthy of the galaxy. The final meeting with Elder Vorthak took place in the Confederation's ancient council chambers. The vast hall that had once hosted representatives from hundreds of species now felt empty and diminished. Only a handful of the old powers remained, and even they seemed smaller somehow. Vorthak sat alone at the center of the chamber, his forearms folded in a gesture of resignation. You wanted to know why we issued the ultimatum, he said without preamble. Why we thought it was necessary to contain your species. President Sunho took a seat across from him. Yes, we have maintained galactic peace for 50,000 years, Vorthak continued. We achieved this by ensuring that no single species could dominate others. Every civilization that joined the galaxy was carefully evaluated, their growth controlled, their expansion limited. A managed galaxy. A stable galaxy. Species developed along predictable lines. They reached certain technological levels and then stabilized. There were no surprises, no rapid changes, no disruptions to the established order. And then we showed up. Vorthak's eyes met his. You didn't just refuse to be managed. You proved that management was impossible. Worse, you showed other species that they didn't have to accept limitations either. So you tried to destroy us. We tried to contain you. But we made a fundamental error. Vorthak stood and walked to a window overlooking the alien cityscape. We assumed you would react like every other species we had encountered. We thought you would either submit or fight a conventional war you couldn't win. Instead, we adapted. You did more than adapt. You evolved. You took our challenge and used it as an opportunity to become something greater than you were before. And now, Vorthak gestured helplessly at the window. Outside, they could see human ships alongside vessels from dozens of alien species, all working together on construction projects that defied traditional engineering principles. The rigid order that had maintained galactic stability for millennia was being replaced by something chaotic, creative, and infinitely more dynamic. Now the galaxy is changing in ways we can't predict or control, Vorthak finished. And that terrifies you. Yes, for 50,000 years, we knew what tomorrow would bring. Now we have no idea what you and your allies will do next. President Sunho considered this. Would you prefer to go back to the way things were? Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. No, he said finally. As much as it terrifies us, we can't deny that the galaxy is becoming more than it ever was under our management. Your innovations, your way of thinking, your refusal to accept limitations, It's pushing every species to achieve things we never thought possible. So what happens now? Now we learn to live in the galaxy you've created. A galaxy where change is constant, where innovation never stops, where the impossible becomes routine. Vorthak turned back to face him. You wanted to prove yourselves worthy of the galaxy. Instead, you've made the galaxy worthy of you. As President Sunho prepared to leave Galactic Prime, he received one final message from Captain Yong, now commanding the exploration vessel New Harmony, a ship built with technology from 12 different species but designed according to human principles. Sir, we've received first contact signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. Another civilization has detected our expansion and wants to establish diplomatic relations. President Sunho smiled. Set course for Andromeda, Captain. Let's see what else is out there. The galaxy had challenged humanity to prove themselves worthy. Humanity had accepted that challenge and transformed not just themselves, but everything around them. Now they were ready to see what other challenges waited among the stars. The age of managed stability was over. The age of infinite possibility had begun,